as a leader or as a small business owner, you're the mad scientist. Specifically, if you're looking to grow, if you're looking to just be the chuck in the truck, owner operator, what leadership do you need? You might have one or two people that work for you. But if you're looking to, grow your location and get to multiple locations, or you're looking to, add people and intensify your business, you need leadership.
Welcome to the Painter Growth Podcast, where we help you scale your painting company in record time. Join us as we explore sales, marketing, hiring, finances, leadership, and more, everything that you need to know to scale and grow your painting business. I hope you enjoy and subscribe. What is up, everybody? Mike Gorhickman here, founder of paintergrowth.com, and I have a very exciting guest today on the Painter Growth Podcast. Mr. Wayne Scherger, Wayne Scherger, currently the COO of Freshcoat Painters with over 180 franchise locations, and a co-founder of CertaPro Painters. That's Wayne, correct. Very excited to have you today. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate the time.
What I love about having you on and just talking to you in general is that we have a very similar origin story.
We do.
We come from the same roots. Do you want to tell me about your experience with College Pro?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, well, we do have a similar background. Mine's a few decades in front of yours, but that was my first venture into self-employment. I was a student in college at the time, and I needed a summer job, and I was hired as a painter and a foreman for a business called College Pro Painters that I had no idea existed. And so anyway, I worked the rest of the summer doing that. And then I was recruited in the fall to take over a franchise location. And I did. And I really had no idea, I had a bit of an idea what I was getting into, but I'd never run a business. I had no sales and marketing background, no, nothing. And, so I went through the initial training and found my territory, started my marketing, generated.
That was in Ontario?
No, it was in Calgary. I was going to school in Ontario, so I was parachuted. And I'm from Calgary originally. I live in Atlanta, Georgia now. Found my territory and I got some marketing going and went out and landed work and started producing, hiring people and producing jobs, and away we went. And so I did that for 3 summers, 2 years residentially in Calgary, and then I moved to Vancouver, British Columbia, and did commercial work. Same company. I
want to pause on this. Interesting for someone like me is that your general manager at the time is kind of a legend.
Well, I spoke to 2 people. Well, 3. One was Greg Clark, who was the original founder of College Pro. It was a small enough business then. It wasn't 3, 4, 5, 600 units. And Steve Rogers, who was, I guess, my general manager. And then another fellow named Steve Lawrence. And these people have all gone on to, bigger and way better things. So, within the College Pro ranks, you're one of them. Creates a very entrepreneurial spirit, and generally people that are unemployable because we like to run our own businesses, and it doesn't necessarily work for. We're the mad scientists, so we love to do our thing, and that's a bit of the curse with running a business like that at that time. And then I went on to work within the College Pro Painters head office, Toronto, and then they transferred me to Boston. So that's how I moved into the U.S. And then I'm sure you'll have some other stories or questions for me at that point.
I mean, the cool thing I think about College Pro and not just College Pro, but any of the student painting enterprises, and I don't think they don't get their dues, their enough respect in the overall painting community, because they really served as a funnel for a lot of really great talent to enter the painting industry.
Oh yeah, for sure. Right. Well, if you knew, right, you learned estimating, selling, paint systems, failures, people management, paper management, production management, payroll. You learned everything. And, I think that it's kind of funny that we have politicians that are trying to run companies that don't have the skills that you and I would have had as a 22-year-old kid. Yeah. Never run payroll, haven't had to go and land a job somewhere. Everything's been taken care of for them, or all they have to do is show up and talk.
Or fix a painter's mistake at the top of a 40-foot ladder.
Yeah. So we learned, the School of Hard Knocks and the Black and Blue division is where we came from.
Yep. So you did College Pro for a few years, residential in Calgary. Then you went to Vancouver and did some commercial work. What were some of the big learnings that you had going from a residential business to a commercial business?
Cash flow, really, right? Like you paint a house, or you got 4 or 5 jobs on the go at any one time. Residentially, you got good cash flow. You're getting paid every 2.5, 3 days by somebody, right? Out of the 4 or 5 jobs. So you always got cash. Commercial, it's 30 days, 45 days. They'll maybe give you a deposit. That doesn't mean that, there's no direct deposit anymore. So they may mail you a check, and that can take 3 or 4 days. So, some of these checks were substantial in size, and you had to pay your tradespeople and your vendors. And that was the toughest. Now I was booking work like crazy and we were producing it. But again, the cash in and cash out was a lot different.
Yeah. And I tell my clients when they get into commercial work, like a lot of GCs and builders will do progress payments, and none of the payments matter until the last one. If you don't collect the last one, you don't make any money.
That's the holdback, right? So you've paid everybody, you haven't been paid. And, then they could come up with the, wow, now we got a punch list all of a sudden that we had along the way and things like that. So those are the challenges that go with, getting into that category of work, like commercial, business to business. It's just different. It's just different.
So where did that take you from there? What did you do after your commercial endeavors in Vancouver?
Well, there was an interesting road journey is what I like to call it. So I bought into a bottled water business in the Canadian Rockies and operated that for a few years. And that was a thrill. I loved doing that. And then I just went back to, that business was sold. I was just a minority shareholder. So I went back to the College Pro network and learned how to be a franchisor. So I learned how to interview, recruit, train, and support small business owners, right? Franchisees. And that took me to Boston. And after a period of time, I got a little tired of the student business. And, I really don't understand how some of these, you go to college sports and you see some of these coaches, they've been coaching for 30 years. Well, I found that I was getting a year older every year coaching College Pro Painters people or supporting them, and they were staying the same age. And so the gap was widening of me and them. And what they thought was cool and what I thought was cool were getting to be two different things. So I was looking for a different opportunity. And the head people at First Service went, which was owning College Pro and a variety of other brands, but not quite at that point. They thought we want a year-round non-student business. And there was a name that had been kicking around for years and years called CertaPro. And so we thought, well, let's dust off that name and just add painters onto the end. And that was the launch of CertaPro. But the original concept of CertaPro was not residential. It was commercial. And so we had some College Pro franchisees that were looking to graduate, legitimately from college, and wanted to stay, right? They got the bug, the entrepreneurial bug, and they thought, let's just do this. So overnight, we created the CertaPro Painters program. We got into the light commercial business, which was, condominiums and townhomes and things like that. And that's how we got launched with that immediate big growth. It was startling because even then we focused heavily on marketing and selling, and we started subcontracting all the work. So, and these were people, younger people, in their mid-20s that had graduated, run a College Pro business for a period of time, understood labor, understood the whole thing, and just went, wow, this is where I want to be. Mm-hmm. And then we started rolling out the system across the country.
And this is also early in the painting industry. This was mid 92?
92, yeah.
So very unrefined painting industry at this time. So you show up with a clipboard and a professional proposal, and all of a sudden you're ahead of everyone else. Yeah,
well, and with some marketing campaigns and tactics to make the ring, and knew what our target area was, our target market. We identified that. this came from my background in Vancouver, right? If I had done high-rise buildings or condominiums, CertaPro would have, who knows if it would have ever launched, or, and over a period of time, it morphed into more of a residential. And then they started to rebuild the light commercial or B2B stuff built into that. So really that was the initial launch. And like I said, then we started to go outside, our network of people, and finding corporate America people. Trade shows at the time in the early 90s was franchise shows and things like that. It was not particularly difficult to find prospective people.
So you couldn't run Facebook ads in the mid 90s?
Al Gore hadn't invented the internet yet. No, there was none. Cell phones were just starting to make a mark.
Yeah. Okay. So you went on to co-found CertaPro Painters, which is now the biggest painting company in the world, I believe, or North America at least.
Yep.
In terms of revenue.
Then I left CertaPro in '93 and had an idea that I really liked to own something on my own, and launched ProTech Painters in the Boston area, and had immediate growth with that. And I was the single shareholder and made all the decisions, and I didn't have anybody sort of looking over my shoulder. Now there's an issue with that too. It's like anybody even running your own small business, right? Am I out here doing this on my own? I don't have a lot of peers. Any decision I make now is all my money. These are the, launching a franchise system on a nickel and dime budget's not an easy thing to do either. So it's pretty cheap till you get some traction with some volume of owners and then revenues coming in. So that was the challenge. And I ran that business till 2009. And a company out of Ann Arbor, Michigan, that was, one of the business aggregators. It was called Service Brands International, came knocking. They had 3 brands: Molly Maid, Mr. Handyman, 1-800 Dry Clean, and they'd launched ducts and hoods businesses as well. And they wanted to add a painting system into their inventory, and they looked at a few, but they realized, like, this guy here, he's got more systems and processes. He understands the trade, understands franchise. He's been a franchisee, right? So they chose me, and it was giving my bit of an exit out of running it, and just started to do independent coaching with clients around the world.
Is that what turned into the Neighborly brand?
No.
5-star painting? That's a different ProTech?
I'll get to that in a minute here. So Neighborly, which was formerly known as the Dwyer Group, out of Waco, Texas. They had 12 or 13 concepts of their own. They were looking to expand, and they wanted a maid business, which was Molly Maid. They didn't have a handyman business. So Service Brands was in their target. But 6 months prior to this whole deal coming down, they had acquired 5-star painting. So ProTech Painters and 5-star ended up in the same inventory at soon to be known as Neighborly. And then they did probably a focus group to determine which name was better. And I think they chose the wrong one, but I thought 5-star had a little bit of litigation. It still does, I'm sure. Nobody had, ProTech, in the painting business is, 2 things that are attached to painting. One is aesthetics and one is protection. So that's why I chose that term. So anyway, that was how that deal came along. So
very cool. That's a cool origin story, not just for and how the Neighborly Group and ProTech was all involved with that as well, because they're obviously big name. I mean, you've been involved with pretty much most of the biggest names in the painting industry in North America.
I've done coaching with a number of them. It's kind of funny. I will go from brand to brand and see some forms, and I'll look at that and go, I developed that form in like 1991, and it's word for word. And it's kind of funny. So some of my materials do find their way around a lot of the different brands, and they all run them very similarly, right? This isn't brain surgery. You come up with marketing. The estimating may be slightly different, but the sales presentation's pretty much the same.
Sit across the kitchen table with both decision makers.
Yes, ask for the order, follow up. schedule.
But by this time, you've now worked. I mean, we'll fast forward to today. Even you've worked with neighbors of probably thousands of franchisees.
Yep.
What, if you could distill down what would make a successful versus unsuccessful painting company? Like, what would be some of the main things that would come to mind?
So you want to talk about the painting company or the person running it?
The person running it, the owner.
Leadership, attainment, like goal oriented, tenacious as hell, so that you don't leave any stone unturned, specifically marketing wise, and the basic interview and selection questions. How do they feel that they are? Are they an internalized or externalized? Will blame others, or they'll see their contribution to the success or failure. So the introspection.
Mm-hmm.
So leadership by far has got to be the biggest one. They got to be able to lead people. You can, if you want to be an independent, chuck in the truck owner, and you're booking it and producing the job yourself. You'll get to a certain volume. You may hit 100K or 150,000 in sales. That's where you'll level off, because you just don't have enough time in the day to do things. It's the people, if you want to start scaling and adding headcount to your business, and people. So it's leadership, and then you got to have systems and processes that are solid that you follow. It's not we'll try it once and it doesn't work. So that's the interview and selection. You got to bring on the right people. And then coach them up. It's not the delegate and disappear and then go, wow, I wonder why that job went south. Well, that customer's terrible. I mean, no, they're not. They're just typical customers. You didn't spend enough time training and supporting. So there's a term. It's called rotor. Mike, you should probably learn this and use it in your own coaching. So the first R stands for recruiting. O is onboarding. T is training. O is operations, and the final R, which is the most important, retention. So people they'll sort of slide through or skate through the first 4 letters, and then or 5 letters, and then it gets to that R for retention. And people leave after 30 days, 60 days, and then you're back to square one. Mm-hmm. So those are the key things to learn as a small business owner, specifically if you're going to grow and scale.
So the first being, you said leadership, attainment, and tenacity. So when it comes to leadership, leadership is such a vague term, right? It's such a catch-all these days. So what specifically makes a good leader? Like, is it the ability to get people to buy into your vision, or is it like, yes. How would you define that?
Right. So as a leader or as a small business owner, you're the mad scientist, specifically if you're looking to grow. If you're looking to just be the chuck in the truck, owner operator, what leadership do you need? You might have 1 or 2 people that work for you. But if you're looking to, grow your location and get to multiple locations, or you're looking to, add people and intensify your business, you need leadership. And so you've got to create your own vision of what that business should look like. And then you bring on the people that can help you build that vision. And so that requires bringing on people that buy into your vision, and so you need to train them up like you'd want to. You need to provide leadership development or even professional development for your key people, and that could be sending them to sales programs or things like that. There's all kinds of materials and courses out there. Your business, Painter Growth, right? Finding somebody like you who could help them. That didn't exist when I was, your age. So you have a great opportunity to meet these people, right? And you meet them all the time, and say, I see your problems. Here's how I can rectify them or help you get through these. So companies like you, Mike, are what people should be looking for.
Well, I appreciate that. I wouldn't have been able to be in this position if I hadn't participated in College Pro, back in the day.
That's all systems and processes. And the very successful franchisees in any business, but even going back to our College Pro days, you didn't try to reinvent the wheel. Generate estimate or leads, convert them to estimates, do the estimate in the correct amount of time, ask for the order, follow up, schedule the job, fill in your production planner, rinse and repeat, right? That's all. That's the system. But a lot of people don't follow that system, right?
Nope.
They don't have a strategy for making the phone ring. So those are campaigns. They are very rogue in their sales process, right? It's, I am a procedure versus outcome guy. I don't care if you land. Wayne, I landed the job. Well, but that was a fluke. You just maybe hit the right person at the right time. There are the people are either spontaneous or logical, and generally people are quite logical. I want to get 3 bids, but occasionally you meet the spontaneous person. Like my wife just says I got to get this done. So you show up, look good, smell good, taste good. You got the right price, go. But you can't run your business on that. Hope's not a strategy. And so they have the rogue sales presentation. They don't follow up on things. Does that sound like the majority of independent contractors? Yeah,
absolutely. Right. The bar is set so low in the average contractor's experience that in order to jump over that bar, you just literally need to show up on time. Right. That's the first thing. And then you're like, 80% chance get the job.
We're not Comcast. We don't give you the 4-hour window. We're going to show up at 8 o'clock. We may be there, 9. We'll be there at 8:55. Park in the right spot. Knock on the door correctly. Identify yourself. I am. You are. And then walk them through. You lead the proposal. And we don't email it. We don't leave it in the mailbox. We want to meet them face to face and walk them through a detailed, specific, descriptive proposal and
build value throughout your exchange.
Yeah. And make the a customer experience positive.
Absolutely. So you mentioned 3 characteristics that make a successful owner: leadership, attainment, tenacity. So we touched on leadership. Now let's touch on attainment. So being a franchisor, I'm sure you've had people come in, buy franchises who you wouldn't necessarily hire, who might be rank a little bit lower on attainment and a lower on tenacity. So what is attainment and why is it so important?
Well, attainment is goal oriented. That you've got to hit specific targets, either short-term or long-term proximal goals, right? So you could have an early season bookings target, and either you hit it or you don't, or you don't even know it. You didn't create a budget for yourself for sales or production. So that's the attainment part. You need to be tied into some goals, and you need to be held accountable. That's the problem. So people, if they don't have an accountability partner, and Sunday night comes and, my budget said I should have 14 estimates done, but I got 6. We'll catch up next week. Well, next week comes another 6, and now you're 12 behind. That's attainment. The people that have high attainment are people that are setting goals. I used to have a franchisee, or I've had multiple franchisees that I'd print off a budget for them and they'd tape it above their head in their truck. So they knew where they were supposed to be. And I also had people that would, in the time, Waze and Google Maps and all it was, they would tape a map up there, but some would have their budget of actuals versus budget taped above their head. They're sitting at a set of lights and they can look up and go, I got to get 14 something done this week, or I got to produce 20,000 this week, whatever it may be. They just knew what their targets were.
So this is like being goal oriented and having attainment aren't necessarily the same thing, right? Setting a goal is one thing, but doing the difficult thing to actually hit that goal is a completely other thing.
Yeah, totally.
And then the last one being tenacity. Now that's a word that most people, you and I are very familiar with, but most people don't know that word. What is tenacity in your words?
Tenacity is a couple of things. So one would be, I know my budget calls for a certain amount of leads generated, and I got none this week. I got 0 to date. What am I going to do to get some bids written or estimates done? Tenacity is that I've produced all my work and it's Sunday night and I've got 5 crews tomorrow morning that don't have any work. What do I got to do? So that's, I'm on the phone or I'm calling people back to even maybe negotiate a price or something. maybe it's a customer that was considering, changing the color. Well, let's now change it while we're here. So you got to be able to bob and weave. You got to be able to turn over every stone to keep your business going. That's tenacity.
Yeah. So Google says it's the quality of being very determined.
Yeah.
So you said something that was interesting. I'm just going to break it down into two sections. So you said if you have like 5 painters, it's Sunday night, you got 5 painters, you don't have any work for them tomorrow. That what I would define as like having an external stimulus and external reason to be tenacious. Whereas I think a successful entrepreneur has to have that internal motivation to be tenacious. There's no other stimuli except your own burning desire to be successful. And that's why you do the thing, not your painter's paycheck.
Yeah. Well, some people they'd call their crews and go, I don't have any work for you tomorrow. Call me Wednesday. Well, I just lost 2 days of productivity for a crew. So instead of me just banging the phones and doing anything I could to convert a prospective customer into a landed customer, I'm doing it.
I remember this one time, almost the exact same situation. I was running my painting business, and I had about a dozen painters that didn't have any work for the following week. And I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday of the previous week. And I saw the end of the road on my production schedule. And I did the only thing that I knew I could get. Of course, I did my follow-up calls and all that. But the only thing that I knew that I would guarantee would get me work is I went outside and I sprinted and door knocked every single evening for 5 hours a night.
Yep.
Like I didn't walk between the houses. I ran between the houses.
I would recruit I knew enough that I can't knock on as many doors. So I would bring out 1 or 2 other people with me, just give them the basic scripting.
Yeah.
Then it was a lot different, right? There's HOAs now that have rules and regs and all that sort of stuff. Because I was smart enough to really learn how to target my marketing. I knew the style of house I wanted to paint. So I wasn't a shotgun guy. I knew where I really wanted to go. So I can't tell you how many thousands of doors I've knocked on. None recently, because my position doesn't require that. But getting people to do that, Mike, is a real challenge. Know how to do it.
Yeah, not everyone has that level of tenacity.
Rejection's not that. You've had 10 no's, you're over that, right?
Yeah.
It's not as hard as you think.
Yeah, 10 no's, move to the next house and get 10 no's.
Well, that may be, but then you'll get 3 in a row, like somebody would say. But again, I would target my cold calling, and call it that, into areas. Again, I looked at any of my businesses as a sales and marketing position. I knew my target market. And, in the painting business at that time, it was homes that were painted 5 years ago or built 4 or 5 years ago with a contractor's grade material. And I knew, right, if you do the math, houses are painted kind of on average every 5 years. And let's say there's 2,500 houses in this market here. Well, there's 500 of them that are going to get painted this year. I just got to find those 500 in that, maybe that zip code or postal area, depending on what, if you're Canada, the US. And then I forget that I had 30,000 other homes. I just focused on these 2,000 or 3,000. That's where I focused my efforts.
And so that's like being the biggest fish in a small pond, right? And having better market penetration, thereby being seen more.
So I would have 5 crews. I would have owned 15 lawn signs. And so I would have 15 lawn signs up within like a 2 mile by 2 mile area. One on the house we just finished, one on the one they're working on, one we're about to start. We go do prep or wash or something like that.
Yep.
Then we would move these 15 lawn signs around every 3 days. It looked like we became boutique-ish. That was the thing. Yeah,
I love it. Just bootstrapping and being seen everywhere, even though you're not really everywhere. You're just everywhere for a few people.
Yeah. And, they're all referral calls. So they're a much, higher close rate, probably a little higher ticket size. It just became so much easier. Marketing costs went down because I wasn't required to, we were so busy that we would have to, I would never say turn people away. I would give away jobs to other College Pro franchisees.
Do you think that leadership, attainment, and tenacity are inherent within someone, or do you think they can be learned and developed?
They can be learned. So leadership, the one you got, right? You were captain of a sports team, or you take the lead in pretty much anything, even with your friends. Like they'll call on you, like, what are we doing this week? They're calling you. They want to be led. So I think leadership is the hardest one to have, but most people have it. Tenacity, precision's the other one, which is organizational skills. You got to have that one too. You can't be writing everything down on a piece of paper and think that you're going to remember everything. You won't. So introspection. Those are all ones that can be taught. Now, here's the challenge. Most independent contractors just say, and there's low barrier to entry in the painting business, right? Today's Thursday. You could be in the painting business tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
A truck, a ladder, and that's it. That's all I need.
I actually had a customer who bust as estimates.
Yeah. Well, interesting. So, but the problem is they don't have a system in place, right? They don't know how to create marketing campaigns. They don't know how to identify their target. They don't, then they'll send off flyers, but there's, or use marriage mail. It could be all Valpak or money mailer, right? That's just shotgunning everything, right? You're going to get calls from way over here, maybe. So, or they're just spending money blindly and it's out the door and, I made an effort at it. So no marketing plan, no business plan. Like I want to be able to hit, I need to be able to hire some people. Unless they just want to be a chuck in the truck and on the tools themselves.
Most people listening to this podcast aren't that type of person.
Yeah. So they need to meet a guy like you or a guy like me, and we give them the blueprint for success. It's kind of a business in a box.
Yeah.
That's what they need. And then they need some accountability generally from, the missus isn't going to give it to them. The missus is usually saying like, well, what are you doing? Like, why don't you go get your job back? No, I feel like I need to be doing this, but there's no accountability. They maybe see another contractor at the paint store and they're like, wow, I wish I was that guy. And they could be, right, if they just did things more smart than just off the cuff. So I have a budget, like I need to generate this many leads. I need to land this much work. I need to have a sales process, like not just some rogue process. And there's lots of them out there, right? You and I were trained in kind of the same way, and that's been refined and polished. And, so many of the steps now have been redone, pre-positioning phone calls, right? So that even before we get there, they know what's going to happen. And then when we get there, right, we give them, maybe it's the list. We want to talk about the specific things on the job, number of coats, surface prep, minor maintenance, what's included or excluded, and then the walk around. So a lot of contractors don't even do any of that. The customer will say, the address is this. I want to get the house painted. Leave me the proposal, right? So there's no customer interaction. Yep. You're guessing at everything, the includes and excludes, the colors. There's no ability to upsell. There's no ability to features and benefits, anything.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the rogue sales. And then, no follow-up. Follow-up is really, even after you land the job, you got to follow up to schedule it. Or, all right, Mrs. Jones, you should get 2 or 3 other bids. Let me know when you'll have them, and then I'll follow up at a specific time and date. I'll tell you when I call. And maybe you have a decision for me. And I'm okay if you decide to go with somebody else. I just want to make sure I didn't drop the ball on something.
Yeah, just having those are really simple systems and processes that you can implement to close more deals for sure.
Yeah.
So we have tenacity. You did mention a few other. We don't need to get into everything: introspection, values, precision, all that right now. But next thing is bringing on the right people, because you can only do so much as one person. You can probably produce 100,000, 150,000 a year until you need a team. What do you look for when it comes to bringing on the right person to help a business grow successfully?
Well, identify where you need them. Most people don't have administrative skills. And I would say that was my weakest part of always, even to this day, right? I'm not a fan of accounting or finance. I know it. I've had to teach it, and I'm good at it, but it's not my favorite. So maybe if you're somebody who's just a sales and marketing guy, you bring on somebody that is a part-time admin person, or maybe you need somebody that you love to go out in sales and market and book, but you don't really like operations. So you'd maybe bring on somebody who's operationally strong, or maybe that's yours because that's where the money is. And you bring on somebody who's a sales and marketing person that does the estimates, and then they bring them to you to get them done. So you need to identify the type of person, and then the skill set that is required within that is secondary, right? So identify which area you need to fill first, and then look for, you're either going to go to Indeed or Career Plug or something like that. You maybe network somebody. Don't hire. You got to have some type of a flow through. It's not a one-to-one, right? I meet a guy, press the flesh, right? You got Paul's show up Friday. No, we're looking for some people. So that goes into the interview and selection model. Like, who am I looking for and how am I going to identify this person? So you need to generate a pool of names or applications or resumes or whatever it is, and then take your time. But you got to be doing this weeks in advance. So this isn't something like today's Thursday that I want to have somebody hired by this weekend. You've done nothing to generate a pool of candidates. And I always say hiring is just like client marketing. It's consistently, you're doing it all the time. Client marketing, you've got different campaigns on the go, but you should be, as a contractor, independent contractor, or whoever, you should be consistently looking for people, because somebody may say, I got a better job. Or, it could be a subcontractor working for you that's 3 people, and bing, they leave. And now all of a sudden you got a hole in your production schedule. So you got to be consistently marketing clients and team. So, your main question was, you got to find what you want to fill first. And again, a lot of people, it's just get rid of the paperwork. That's a burden that they don't like.
So to bring on the right people, basically figure out where you need them, what the specific role is, outline that role, and then what type of person you want in that position, the skill set required, and then basically put together an ad based on of that and start generating some names and applications.
Prospective people.
So so we talked about those main values, leadership, attainment, tenacity, and then bringing on the right people. Are there any other red flags or things that you can kind of identify just on the top of your head that would make a painting business successful or unsuccessful?
Focus, know your lane. Don't go outside your lane. So here's what I see a lot of, where they'll start, I'm running a successful business. So they think, and it may be successful. I want to go buy another business. And now they generally don't have the revenue or capital available to market 2 businesses. And even though the painting one may be generating all the revenues, but if their focus is on the other one, guess which one's going to die? So that's a classic one, where they get outside their lane. And that's a key one. Know where you're at, set a 3-year vision for yourself. Like, where do you see this business today? Today is September 7th. September 7th, 2026. Where am I? Where does this business, where would it be? How many people do I have? Have I expanded into a different market? Now that's another one. Like, don't just think that you're going to cover the whole city when, your target area is just over here. Let's just consistently work there. So, know what other technology do I need to bring into my business? Do I need to skill up myself or anybody else? So those are some things that owners should be looking at. I think what you're asking me is really, how do I grow and scale properly? How do I get myself out of the truck and quarterback this thing? How do I bring on 2 trucks? I always teach the journey, which is a bunch of dots on a map, and you got to go from dot 1, which is the owner. Dot 2 is owner, part-time admin, estimator, or production person. Dot 3, now these are all based on revenues, right? So it's the more headcount you have, the more, the more revenues. And really, you need to look to, when this business, when you started, you should be looking, how am I going to get out of this thing? So it's a weird question. I just started it, but I should think of an exit strategy. And at some point, do I sell? Is this thing sellable? And if it's Scherger painting, it's probably not sellable, right? Because if it's Wayne doing all the, who's going to buy that? So come up with a trade name that is somewhat, marketable, and then just grow, and then think, okay, maybe 10 years from today or 15 years, I want to exit. I either want to sell or I want to promote somebody from within And I'm involved, but I'm not on the day-to-day thing. And, and then also you need to be, how do I extend some services here? So that gets into your B2B marketing, find out how to generate some recurring revenue. So every year you may be sitting on 100,000 or 200 or 500,000 of recurring. It's sitting there, right? You keep booking this stuff. That's B2B stuff. You need your residential. You asked me the very first thing when I got into commercial, what was my issue, right? Cash flow. So those are some things, Mike, I'm sure you're talking to your people about that, but that is, if that's getting out into the world wide web of painting contractors and they want to, grow and scale properly, those are the things to do.
So I really like that idea of like, even if you're just getting started, think of not necessarily your exit strategy, but think of where you want your business to go, because I think that will really help people make decisions.
Yeah. Well, come up with a 3-year plan. So what is my budget this year? What is it next year? And what is it? I don't believe in 5-year and 10-year goals. That's way too far, right? Yeah, your life could change a lot. But anyway, come up with the term, the more recent term is rocks. What's my vision? And then just, as you bring on people, bring them on who understand your vision and help build it. You can't build it. You can't swing a hammer and cut, pound enough nails and cut enough boards to build your business. You can't.
Absolutely. So with all of that, like, how did you get involved with Freshcoat?
Well, going back to the neighborly days, so I was essentially out of that. I was doing executive coaching with CEOs around the world. Actually, I've done coaching with 5 different continents. It's all on leadership, strategic initiatives, things like that. And COVID came and killed all that because I generated the majority of my leads through speaking engagements. There were no speaking engagements. And I had a peer group business, which I still do. And we couldn't do any peer group meetings, and virtual peer group meetings are marginally successful. So I had some time and I reached out to Tara. Now I knew Freshcoat. I tried to buy Freshcoat in 2004. I think I was at like 22 locations and they were at like 15. And I went, oh, I could almost double my size if I just acquired this brand. And they wouldn't sell. So I knew who they were. They, at that time had kind of marketed themselves as the low cost or low entry business and really interior only, $199 a room. And I went, I would change that whole model anyway. So I reached out to Tara. They had a big enough footprint with, 170 locations. They had challenges and holes in their system that I went, wow, that's right up my alley. Is growing and scaling. So it was just a good marriage that, they kind of let me, I'm the visionary kind of mad scientist guy. And they thought, okay, we need a little energy. We need to grow and scale. And this guy's got some ideas. So.
Perfect. And that was in October of last year?
Yeah.
Awesome. And what have you implemented and learned over this last year, getting into a company that with so many locations?
Well, not as much learned, because I've pretty much seen everything. It's really just adding more systems and more processes, more engagement with the franchisees or owners, more touch points with them, more leadership development. So, every business will have, sort of the onboarding or, new owners coming into the business. Then you have a group of people that are in the emerging, and then you have some dominant players. Well, Freshcoat had a lot of people in the onboarding. They had a good group of people in the emerging. Dominant players meaning $6 billion, $8 million, $10 million a year. They don't have anybody like that. CertaPro will have a handful of them, but they got a big head start too. So, I focus mostly on the emerging. So I believe in a program called Double, which is the double your revenues, double your profits in 3 years or less. So that's 26% growth. It's not as hard as you think. If you start adding headcount, so if you're a $500,000 business and you add on another estimator, and they can go book you $750,000 and you were $750,000 now you've doubled. So it's a 26% growth. It may seem, if you're going to do this all on your own, that's a tough haul. So that's what we've been focusing on, is more in the emerging, giving them the skills, holding them accountable, making them uncomfortable, because when you're uncomfortable, your results will be there. If you get comfortable with 2 crews, I can't move you off the 2 crews.
Yeah.
So that's where, those are the systems and processes, and they're more focused on finance. You got to be able to, it's not just revenues generated. You got to make money at this. And then just more on the individual coaching one-on-one. So the accountability. So the owners, so I've come up with, you asked me, I think the other day, about the one-on-one and the goal set and review. Yeah. That's crucial. That's crucial. They didn't have that before. And the scheduled calls for the accountability. Mm-hmm. So when people start, they're being held to, you got to generate 12 to 14 leads. Now, this isn't for everybody. Yep. But if you're on a call with me and you did 6 estimates and your budget called for 12 or 14, we're going to have some conflict.
It's funny how tried and true and just like ubiquitous these systems are, that you learned a long time ago. I learned less of a long time ago, but how applicable they are across probably not even any painting business, but any trades business.
Any trade business. They're all, I was working in a flooring business. We're doing some coaching there. I was doing, I've coached handy. They're all the same. The customer's the same. They respond to things the same. It doesn't matter the trade. I don't even need to know the trade. But that's, I don't. I don't know the widget that you sell. I couldn't care. It's, I'm going to give you the systems and processes to run your business properly. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, it's probably too early to tell, but like, what have you noticed even in terms of the engagement of the franchisees since implementing some of these strategies?
Close rate increasing near double. Ticket size going up because they're learning to upsell. Focusing their marketing into specific targets versus shotgun the whole thing. So right there, a calendar management, figure out the time of the day that the fish are biting for estimates. So calendar management, specific days and times of the days is important for sales and marketing. So implementing these things into franchisees, businesses, watch them flourish.
Amazing. Any tips? We went through a lot of tips and advice and actionable things for people, but for the contractor right now who just feels stuck, in their business, don't know where to go, what would you recommend they should start doing tomorrow to get out of that situation? If they're just, they're too busy, they're running too many ways, they don't have enough work. How can people get out of that rat race?
Well, I'd say, in your case, meet somebody like you. Try to engage in a mastermind group. People that are struggling, right? You just hit all of them, right? It's rogue sales processes. My business runs me. I am not in control. I'm getting tired of this. My lifestyle is horrible. I don't have specific, I feel like the phone rings and it's a heart attack, right? It's, all those, if that's what you're feeling, but you kind of enjoy the trade, engage with somebody who's going to coach you and walk you through, set up some plans for you. That's what they need. You can't get it from a CPA. You can't get it from, but you got to find somebody who's specific into home services. Don't just go and deal with somebody who's a business coach. You may be a $300,000 owner and they're used to dealing with $30 million clients. That's an apple and a transmission. Those are not being the same thing. So find, if you're going to go that way, find a coach that is kind of walked in your shoes and can walk you through. But you got to be able to accept coaching. If you just say, yeah, I want to do this. And then and maybe Mike, you've had this, you've engaged with somebody and they're dying for direction and you give them some ideas. And then the next call is, well, didn't really happen this week. You got to cut bait because they're not coachable. There's no tenacity. There's no attainment. So Those are the things. They got to be, I would bring on, if I bring on people, I do kind of a mental interview. Actually, it could be over the phone, but I'm going to ask them all these questions and rate yourself on this and tell me experiences. And if all those things are good, then I'd say, okay, I'll work with you. But if they're a 1 out of 5 in some things, they're a 1 out of 5 for a reason.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we could talk all day on your experiences, and I'd love to have a round 2 one day. But I want to be respectful of your time, and thank you so much, Wayne, for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Feel free to reach out anytime. If you wanted me kind of as a regular contributor, I'd be happy to do so.
Awesome. I think we would love that. So we'll do every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Oh, not quite that cadence.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate it, Wayne, and thank you so much. Until next time.
Yeah, Mike, good to see you. And again, anytime. I appreciate your efforts, and I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, and great success in the future with you.
Right on. Thanks again, Wayne. Same to you. Thanks for listening to the Painter Growth Podcast. If you want to grow your painting business, go to www.paintergrowth.com or click on the top link in the description. Talk soon.